My name is Aviva Siegel. I'm here to bring Keith back home and to fight for him, his words, and to fight for the girls that were with me that are still in Gaza underneath the ground. And for all the hostages, we have 5 hostages from Kibbutz Gaza, the community that I come from. Keith is a hostage. He's an American citizen. He comes from North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and his mom just passed away a week and a half ago. I was broken up into pieces because while we were in Gaza, one of the days while we weren't allowed to talk and not even whisper, he came up to my ear and whispered it, just that nobody can hear, that the first thing that he wants to do when he gets out of Gaza is to go and give his mom a hug. Keith and I met on Kibbutz Gezer. His brother has been living on Kibbutz Gezer, and his wife, she introduced me to Keith, and in 2 seconds, I fell in love with Keith. He's just the most gentle, sweet, loving person. He just opened his mouth, said 3 words, and I was just, shaking with love. And that's many, many years ago. We've been married for 43 years. So I know Keith for 45 years. And that's a long, long, long time. We lived for more than 40 years on Kibbutz Gaza. It's a beautiful, beautiful kibbutz. It's a beautiful community. We're so close to Gaza. We can see Gaza, and Gaza can see us. That morning on the 7th, Keith and I ran to our little bomb shelter, and we're used to it, so we didn't think that anything was different. And after 2 attacks, we walked out, and I could see through the window that all the missiles were going all over the country. You could see that there were ones that were very high, going to Tel Aviv and to different directions, and it sounded like the end of the world. My house was shaking. I could feel it, and the whistling of all the missiles going, and it really frightened me so much. And then 2 seconds later, we were back in our bomb shelter, and I remember shaking and not understanding what's happening. Shortly, we heard the terrorists killing people already on Gaza, and I remember looking at Keith in the eyes and saying to myself, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Terrorists on the kibbutz and people have been dead. So we hid ourselves in the little bomb shelter while we were shaking, and Keith was just trying to calm me down. Then we heard the Arabic coming very close and them shooting the house, and then them walking and screaming inside of my house while Keith and I were still in our pajamas. 64 people were murdered on my community. Families were just burnt alive. Mothers were raped. There were 2 twins, 9 months old, in a bed, a baby's bed together. They were 19 hours alone, 9 months old. And Abigai's brother and sister, they hid themselves in a cupboard while their mother was dead in front of them for more than 19 hours. Hamas terrorists pulled Keith and they tore his shirt, and they took us out the window from the back of the house. And while they took us, screaming at us, they pushed us and they pushed Keith, and they broke his ribs, and they shot us. There's bullets in my house. You can see the floor has been ruined from them trying to shoot me and kill me inside my house. One of the bullets hit Keith. I remember the bullets like coming right next to me, but I was lucky that I wasn't hit by them. And they were screaming and pushing and shouting, and they took us in Keith's car while one of the terrorists was holding a knife in front of my face, and the other one was holding a gun in front of Keith's face and my face. We could see houses on the kibbutz on fire already, and lots of terrorists walking around and shouting. And when we arrived to Gaza, we could see on the roads, everybody was outside. They were clapping their hands. It was just like a party for them. They were just the happiest people in earth, while Keith and I just wanted to die, and we were shaking. We didn't understand, what are we doing in Gaza? And then the car stopped at a house, And in a brutal way, they took us out. They pulled us out the car. And walking into this house, just 4 steps, there was a hole going down underneath the ground. And I remember just standing there and looking at the Hamas terrorists smiling and telling me to go down. And you know, I was so frightened. I'm a claustrophobia. And I was just shaking, and Keith was trying to help me. I'm a very scared person of the dark, not knowing what they're going to do to us, where they're taking us. We were 7 people from Kibbutz Gaza. 4 people came from Mishpachat Goldstein, from the family, and the mother and the 3 children. And when she walked in, first of all, they were full of blood. They were shot on their legs. And she could not stop saying, "They killed my daughter. They killed my daughter in front of my eyes." She fainted, and they told me to wake her up, and she didn't wake up, so they shot her. And my husband, Nadav, tried to protect us, so they killed him in front of me and my children. So they were shaking, they were in a complete and utterly shock. And you know, I always say that if there was a camera just seeing us, Keith was with blood, and the boy from Gaza was full of blood too. And them, the 4 of them, they just had seen their father and their sister full of blood lying on the floor. So we tried to help them, Keith and I, as much as we could. It wasn't easy. We were just all shaking and not understanding what's happening to us, where we are in our pajamas, taken from our homes. And Keith, poor thing, with his ribs broken, he couldn't move. He was in so much pain. And they used to force him to sit, and used to beg them to let him lie down just for 5 minutes, just to relax the pain. And they used to smile and say no. Keith and I were moved in Gaza 13 times. We got, like, I used to call it a costume. We wore clothes looking like Arabs. When we were moved in cars, or we walked, and we were in houses, in buildings, and we were underneath the ground. And every building we were in, the missiles that were sent to Israel came out of those buildings. Every building that we were in. And Hamas terrorists used to come and say to us, "It's us bombing Israel." And they used to clap their hands and say, "Beautiful." You could see how happy they were for sending those missiles to kill people. That's all that was in their minds. I used to look at the ceiling, and the whole building used to shake. And I used to just pray, just don't let the ceiling fall on me, or just don't let it fall on Keith. I remember once, like, thinking about my grandchild sitting on my lap and me hugging him, and I burst into tears, and we weren't allowed to cry. I used to hide myself crying. I used to lie down on the filthy, dirty mattress on the floor and just hide myself crying that nobody will see me, because I got yelled at. And every time that anybody showed any emotions, it felt like they're going to kill us. And I remember there were so many moments that I used to just, like, try and figure out who's going to die first, how it's going to feel, what is it going to be like, if I'll never ever see my family again. We were left alone underneath the ground with hardly any water and hardly any food. They just left us there to die. And I remember Keith, like, looking at me and saying, "I feel like I can't breathe." And I looked at him, and that's exactly what I felt. He just had the guts to tell me. And I remember I was just so scared to look at him, to see his chest going up and down, and maybe to see him dead. I think that if anybody asked me, how did the time move? It moved by trying to think and to survive, how to survive, what it's going to be like surviving, What is it going to be like if they're going to shoot Keith like they said they will? So many times. And me watching that. Or what is it going to feel like when one of the girls was taken and being touched while she shaked when she came back, and I gave her a hug and I was screamed at because I wasn't allowed to. And that feeling of not being able to help her broke my heart. Not being able to help Keith when they threatened him, when they shaved him, broke my heart. There were so many moments like that. So every time we came to the United States, we've been trying to be their voice, Keith's voice, and the girls and the boys that are still in Gaza, of what they're going through. You know, Hirsch, the American citizen, I'm talking for him because he's not here to tell his story. So I want everybody to know that he went through hell and that he didn't deserve that, and it's the worst thing that could ever happen to any human being in this world, what he went through, because I went through it. And Keith, my Keith, is still going through hell underneath the ground, trying to keep himself alive. I can't understand how us as humans can allow Hamas terrorists just to do whatever they want to, touch the girls when they want to, let them get into the shower and be naked and just watch them while nobody's ever seen their body, and dress them with tight clothes and just sit and stare at them and smile. Because I do know that Keith and the hostages are lying underneath the ground and just waiting who's going to be the next one. That'll be starved, tortured, hit, beaten, raped. And it breaks my heart. I was there, I was starved, I lost 10 kilos in Gaza. I was sick, I had infection in my stomach. And they used to eat, the Hamas terrorists used to eat in front of me and drink in front of me while they didn't give us water and didn't give us any food. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that's standing with us and shouting for us and helping in every way they can. And I want everybody in the United States or all over the world just to know and understand that nobody should go through what I went through. And nobody in this world should go through what the hostages are still going through. Because it's too cruel and it's not human to put people in conditions like that. And I do want to say that every person that's alive in this world needs to have a better life. And the mothers in Gaza that have babies, it breaks my heart that they have babies in tents. The older people that are in tents in Gaza, and all the good people that deserve a life, that Hamas has been taken it away from these people. Keith and I are peacemakers, and we've been against wars in any way that you can think about it. And for us being underneath the ground and feeling like we're in the middle of a war, what are we doing there? Hamas terrorists treated me like I'm not a person, not a human being, but it didn't change me. I'm going to be the same person, and I'm going to shout for humans to have a better life all over the world, and I'm going to keep my hope up, and I'm going to talk for the hostages to get them out as soon as possible, because we want them home alive, and we want them home today.